Hi! Today I'm going to tell you about the original tale of Beauty and the Beast and take you through the process of my painting, which is inspired by the old tale, and I've chosen to call it Do Not Be Deceived by Appearances. Two reasons for that, because that phrase is repeated time and time again in the original story, as it is in the Disney version as well. And also, I think it is apt for this painting, especially as the beast is hidden from the viewer, and so you can't just glance at the painting, you actually need to look beyond the gardens and the pretty foliage and see what's underneath. Now here is my past self just explaining to you a bit about the process that I go through before I start painting. Normally I will go looking for the story on the internet or in one of my books, but today instead I was listening to one of my podcasts from the Myths and Legends podcast, which by the way I think is great, and if you're watching this video you're probably into stories yourself and really should check out. On the ones that I downloaded, I realised I downloaded one about Beauty and the Beast and I thought, oh, this might be good. I listened to the story and yeah, it's quite different to the Disney one. Yeah, the Beast in the original is not actually a villain at all. He's never been a villain. He's never been selfish or anything, and the reason why he was turned into a beast was because a fairy who was meant to be acting like his mother at the time decided she wanted to marry him, and he wouldn't. Quite obviously, that'd be quite messed up. So she turned him into that. He is quite a creepy monster. He has a trunk and he has scales that scrape across the floor and claws and hairy hands. Not like the really cool dude that Disney came up with, who is kind of like a lion and, to be honest, is quite good looking for a monster. I hope other people agree with me out there. Okay, I've worked for about 4 or 5 hours on this now. Scanned through like the original version and read loads of other versions of the story to see how they best match up, and also have a think about what scene I want to actually do. So whilst I'm painting, I will now tell you a short version of Beauty and the Beast, kicking out all the Disney stuff and putting back in as much of the original content as I can into this video. Many years ago lived a rich merchant and his wife in France. They had 5 sons and 7 daughters, the youngest being incredibly beautiful and cheerful. Her name was Beauty. The 6 eldest sisters were used to a lavish lifestyle, were spoiled with whatever they wanted, and were expected to marry dukes. Unfortunately for the family, things were about to change. It started when the merchant's wife died. After having lost their beloved wife and mother, the economy started to fail. The family ended up having to cut back the parties, Beauty had to quit schooling, and then to top it off, a fire burned up their house. This meant the family had to move away to a run-down country home on a farm. I've decided that Beauty is taking up too much space on the canvas, so I'm now painting the scenery in around her. The merchant suggested his children got married, but no one wanted them. One day fortune seemed to change with the arrival of a letter. It asked for the merchant to journey to the port to collect goods for one of his ships. It came as a surprise because the merchant thought he had lost all his ships at sea, and yet this one seemed to have made it. The merchant's children pressured the merchant to leave immediately and claim what was his, not before having asked him to bring back dresses, fancy jams, jewels, golden cups, and all manner of riches. The merchant noticed that Beauty had not asked for anything, and asked her what she would like. He became insistent when Beauty said she didn't want anything, and so eventually she asked for a simple rose. When the merchant arrived at the port, he discovered everything had been sold already and at a cheap price, and his portion of money was hardly enough to pay for his journey back. The merchant was very concerned what to tell his children. The rain poured down, making his journey miserable. And I'm now going to start concentrating on the beast, which will be hidden in all the vegetation, because in the story he can make himself invisible and follow Beauty about. On the journey, without warning, wolves sprang upon the merchant and his horse. His horse bolted and galloped up a strange misty path towards a castle that he had had no idea was there.
The merchant slammed the gates behind him to keep the wolves out. Cold and hungry, the merchant decided to try his luck at the castle. When the merchant knocked on the castle's large heavy door, it unlocked and swung open. There was no one there. The merchant walked in and smelled food. He followed the scent and found a table laden with a feast. For a while the merchant sat at the table waiting for his host to appear, but when no host came, the merchant decided to eat up. Afterwards he explored the castle a little, discovering many riches and yet no sign of life. He wandered through the gardens and saw a beautiful rose bush, which reminded him of his promise to Beauty. He plucked a rose from the bush, thinking the secretive, shy host, having been so kind, wouldn't miss one rose, when he heard a noise behind him. Turning round, his eyes grew wide with fright as he took in the immense figure that was the hideous beast. The beast angrily knocked the rose out of the merchant's grasp with its trunk and growled, "Who told you you might gather my roses? Was it not enough that I sheltered you and fed you? Your insolence will not go unpunished." The merchant begged for his life and explained that he had taken the rose for his daughter, but had left all the other riches he had seen that his other 6 daughters had asked for. The beast softened and said, "I will forgive you, on the condition that you bring me one of your daughters to take your place. She must, however, come willingly. You will have a month to say your goodbyes before I expect you both here. If you do not do this, I will find you and take your life."
Personally, I believe the beast wouldn't have taken the merchant's life if it came to it, as when you understand his backstory, which I'll cover another time, was always a kind person, and I think he had to scare the merchant into bringing back a daughter in order for the beast to have any chance in breaking his curse.
Cutting forward a bit with the story, after a month of living with his family and saying goodbyes, it was decided that Beauty should go, as it was her who had asked for the rose which had cost them so much. So when the day came, a smart-looking horse arrived to take Beauty and her father back to the castle. It took no time at all, since the horse was enchanted. When Beauty met the beast, she was of course terrified, but attempted to hide it and act with the good manners she had, which pleased the beast. Now, unlike the Disney version, the beast allowed the merchant to stay a night, and so the father and daughter had some time to say goodbye. The beast also invited the merchant to take all the riches from the castle that he wished, which after some persuading, the merchant did so. Although losing Beauty, the merchant and his children would never be poor again. After an emotional farewell to her father, Beauty ran to her bedroom where she cried herself to sleep. In her dream she met a handsome young man in the gardens. He told her that she was not as unfortunate as she thought she was. He was imprisoned here too, and in order to free him, she must not allow herself to be deceived by appearances. In the evening, Beauty was called to dine with the beast. Conversation was sparse and awkward. What do you say to a beast who has separated you from your family, and isn't eating but is instead just staring at you? It occurred to Beauty her food may be poisoned, or that the beast was waiting to eat her. When she asked the beast why he wasn't eating, he said it was because, having tusks, trunk and paws, it was difficult to eat and the scene would cause Beauty to be ill. She thought this entirely possible, but was still concerned he may want to eat her. However, at the end of the meal it seemed unlikely, when instead he asked if she would marry him. Beauty was shocked and didn't know what to answer. The beast saw her angst and reassured her, "Say yes or no without fear." "Oh, no, beast," replied Beauty, relieved. She thought she'd rather be his dinner than his wife, having to sleep next to him every night.
I've just been talking to my husband about this painting, and there are some things I really like about it and things I don't think are working. I really like this paw here, made from rocks and things. But here I've made it into a tree trunk and it just looks wrong because that arm is too small compared to this one. Perhaps we could make it look like it was originally part of this tree and so it would come down here.
Beauty lived with the beast for about a year. In that time she explored the enchanted castle and its gardens. Anything she wanted she would just have to ask aloud for, and the invisible servants would bring it to her. There were monkeys and birds that were put on pantomimes for her, a library full of mountains of books, and incredible portraits. Beauty recognised the man from her dreams in one of the portraits, and over the year of living there would meet him in her dreams, and in her waking hours would try to find ways to discover and free him. She never found him though. Beauty fell in love with the man from her dreams, and every night he would remind her not to trust her eyes. Sometimes there was also a sparkly woman reiterating the man's mantra. However, over time, Beauty grew bored of the animal pantomimes, would torment herself looking for clues in the library books on how to free her dream man, and became depressed. She looked for a plant in the poison garden to make her sleep longer, so she could visit her dream man more often. One day she found a locket hanging from a rusty chandelier, and when she opened it she saw the portrait of the man from her dreams again. She supposed the beast had stolen the estate from this mysterious man, and decided to confront the beast about it at dinner. At dinner, the beast tried to talk about other things, like what she had done that day, and the weather. His conversation had improved a bit, and he had always shown respect and consideration to Beauty. Beauty still had to know, though, if the young man was here somewhere. She asked Beast, "Beast, are there any other living, breathing beings here apart from the two of us and the animals?" "No, it's only us and the animals," replied the beast. Beauty was horrified. She wondered if the man in her dreams had died or if he had ever existed. She also despaired at the thought she had gone a whole year without having seen another human face. Like he did at every evening meal, the beast asked Beauty again to be his wife, and she replied, perhaps more angrily this time, "No." The beast looked very hurt and upset, and brought out a shard of a mirror and passed it to her with his trunk. "This mirror will show you the person you most wish to see," he said. As Beauty looked at the mirror, it changed from her reflection to showing her father enjoying a laugh with one of his children. They looked happy and well off. Beauty smiled to herself. At least one good thing came from the sacrifice of her freedom. She wished she could tell them, though, that she was still alive, as they probably assumed that she was dead by now. The beast read this in her face too, and told her that if she wished, she could go and stay with her family for 2 months. He passed her a ring and told her that all she had to do was turn the ring tonight, and she would wake up at her father's house. He warned her, though, to turn the ring again in 2 months' time and come back to the castle, or he, the beast, would die. Beauty was elated and surprised at the beast's actions. She went to bed happy that night and turned the ring just before she fell asleep.
It's really difficult painting Beauty. Much easier painting monsters and animals. Because I'm trying to work out how much of her nose am I going to see, and how much is, how small or big should her nose be, so it's actually beautiful. And I noticed earlier I'd actually given her probably my forehead. It's slightly funny shaped, but I'm oddly I actually quite like it, but but it's probably not considered, storybook pretty. And she has to be pretty as well, because she is actually half fairy. And Beauty doesn't know that right till the very end of the story, but she is.
The next morning she woke up in her father's new house and heard him talking. She got up and greeted her family, who were both shocked and ecstatic at seeing her. Her brothers suggested she didn't go back and let the beast die. Her sisters were jealous of her beautiful clothes that the beast had given her, despite doing so well for themselves now. Her father, however, surprised Beauty by suggesting that she accept the beast's marriage proposals, explaining that marriage is more than just about love and mutual attraction, but also about companionship and respect. He said the beast was clearly respectful of Beauty and also seemed to love and care for her. She could do a lot worse.
This does seem like a strange thing for a father to say, but we have to remember that in those days when this story was written, arranged marriages were very common. This tale has a few themes to it, but this was probably the main lesson that was trying to be put across to the girls who were hearing it. And the lesson was that you did as you were told as a woman, and that you had to marry whoever your father told you to. Even though the man you had to marry might seem to you as a beast, someone you didn't know, but in the end he should respect and care for you, and over the years you would be able to see beyond that beastly appearance. Basically, do as you're told. However, in the Disney version it's very different, and Belle, who is Beauty in this instance, is very independent, and all the decisions that she makes in her life are her own decisions. That's something I really like about the Disney version, that it encourages people to be the director in their own lives, but I still think the old tale is fascinating.
Beauty decided to stay one extra night with her family, despite being past the 2-month deadline. But in her dreams, she dreamt of the twinkly woman who told her the Beast was dying and implored her to make haste and return to him. In her sleep, Beauty turned the ring and woke up at the castle. Immediately she started running about looking for the Beast. She even enlisted the help of the birds and the monkeys to find him. Eventually she discovered a cave where she heard the deep breathing of the Beast. She asked aloud for a light and saw that the Beast was clutching berries. He explained he thought she wasn't coming back. He hadn't eaten properly since she had left, and after the 2 months was up, went to the poison garden and picked himself some deadly berries. Beauty cried and apologised for being late. She begged him not to leave her, and she told him that she'd found herself loving him. The Beast said, "If that is true, your love is all I need to heal. Will you marry me?" When Beauty consented to marry him, the Beast's health seemed to improve.
Now, in one version at this point, the statues in the garden become real people. They'd been enchanted before to become statues. The good fairy Delphine, who was the sparkly woman that Beauty used to see in her dreams, appears alongside the Queen Cecile, who is the Beast's mother. And the Beast's ugliness melts away to reveal the man from Beauty's dreams. However, the Queen Cecile won't accept Beauty as the prince's bride because she is a commoner. But all is well when Delphine explains that actually Beauty is the long-lost child of King Ethel, who is actually Queen Cecile's brother, and the fairy who everyone knows as Alice. In another version, Beauty has to kiss the Beast, which is awkward for them both, and then they later sleep next to each other, and she can hear his deep, terrible snoring, and she's thinking, oh, I'm going to have to live with this all my life now. But in the morning, she wakes up and finds the handsome man from her dreams again, lying there next to her. And she realises that they are actually the same person, and the Beast has in the night turned into the handsome man from her dreams. And at the same time she hears two women talking outside the bedroom, which are Delphine the fairy and Queen Cecile. And Queen Cecile is very unhappy about Beauty marrying the prince, being a commoner. And the Beast wakes up and hears this commotion. I suppose we should call him the prince now. And comes out and declares that he loves Beauty, and if he cannot marry her as a prince, he will transform back into a beast and marry her then. Although I think Beauty would rather she just married him as he was. But then, of course, as I explained earlier, the fairy Delphine explains Beauty's true parentage, and so in the end everything is fine.
In case you're wondering, the second version, Beauty dreams of the man from her dreams while sharing a bed with the Beast, and she apologises to him for choosing to love the Beast over him. She describes it as a more practical love with the Beast, and not like the love she had for him. The man merely smiles and congratulates her, declaring it is the best choice for all. This confuses Beauty and slightly irritates her that he didn't fight harder for her. Of course, when she wakes up, we all know now that she puts two and two together and sees that the Beast and the Prince from her dreams are the same person.
I've just painted in the fairies. I've got a few in the little fairy cave here and 3 here. And I also want to paint in Belladonna, who is the evil fairy who actually turns the Beast into a beast. And I'll talk about her more in another video. But because she's the evil one, and she doesn't work nicely with the rest of the other fairies on doing good fairy work around the kingdom. I've put her separately over here, you know, because she does her own thing. She can't be controlled.
In the end, the story concludes with a big party. Both Beauty's real parents, King Ethel and Fairy Alice, who is released from fairy prison for having married a human, attend the wedding, and so do all of Beauty's adopted brothers and sisters, plus their merchant father. The merchant is at first upset to learn that Beauty is not his daughter and was in fact swapped with his real youngest daughter as babies when his actual baby died. However, he cheers up when Beauty says she will always think of him as a father, and where family is concerned, she thinks the more the merrier. If you're wondering how Beauty was swapped with his real daughter, it was the fairy Delphine who did that, who originally tried to save his daughter, but when it wasn't possible, saw the opportunity and gave him Beauty.
Never felt this safe with anyone. Finally found a place where I belong. But now I wonder what is wrong, what's on your troubled mind. There's one thing I want you to know. All the days that we've been spending, I hope this dream is never ending. Oh, feels like a fairy tale. And all of me is filled with love. You know you mean the world to me. Oh, feels like a fairy tale. Like a fairy tale.